Morning class, hope everyone's having a great first week. So my topic for my thesis is going to be the effects of pets on college students and stress levels. So just an introduction to my topic and my underlying interest in it. So these are both my dogs. So some of you may not know, but my first year of college, I went away to Loyola, which was 3 hours from my house. I stayed on campus, and within 2 weeks, my anxiety levels went up and I was extremely unhappy. By the time the second semester rolled around after Christmas break, I knew that I wasn't going to be staying at Loyola, and I started looking at schools to transfer to. Of course, Monmouth was my number one choice because it was literally 5 minutes from my house and I could stay home. I missed my family, but I also missed my pets. So going into thesis, I started to think about my college experience and being away from my family. And I realized that being away from my pets was definitely something that caused me a lot of anxiety because I do have a connection to them. So that sparked my interest in other college students and whether they feel the same way when they first go away to college. So the purpose of my study is to examine whether pet ownership, and I think I'm going to specifically focus on cats and dogs, among college students has an impact on their stress levels. I hypothesize that college students who live with their pets will report the lowest levels of stress. And I also hypothesize that college students who own pets but do not currently live with them will report average levels of stress. So even though I had a pet my first year of college, I didn't live with them full time. They were 3 hours away. And I think that this had an impact on my stress levels. So once I started commuting to Monmouth my sophomore year, I think that being home and after coming home to my pets after a long day and being in the presence of them definitely had an impact on my stress levels. So my study rationale. According to a study done by McLean in 2011, college students suffer greatly from high levels of stress that could be from a variety of factors. Those factors include the desire to succeed academically, perform well, comparing themselves to other students, whether that be socially, academically. Students also suffer greatly from financial hardships. Everyone has different financial situations, so some students have to apply for financial aid while others do not. Different majors have different workloads, so this was another factor that impacted college students' stress levels. And uncertainty about the future. A lot of college students think about the future and what they want to do once they get out of college. I know right now for my semester, I am currently taking my internship class at the same time, and a lot of the students in my class are trying to pick internships that are of interest to their future, but it's also very unsettling not knowing what the future holds and whether you're going to be able to secure a job after graduation, especially with financial hardships. Since these high levels of stress have been reported, researchers have tried different interventions to determine which is most effective in helping college students to manage their stress. So one study that I looked at was a web-based study, and it administered an intervention to college students, and the results showed that students reported decreased stress levels after the intervention. So the students would take a anxiety or stress evaluation, were then administered the intervention, and then they were given the same assessment at the end, and their stress levels were decreased. Another common thing is pet therapy that is used by clinicians. So studies involving pet therapy have shown that the presence of a companion animal has decreased anxiety and stress levels, and also has shown physical health benefits such as decreased heart rate and also decreased blood pressure. So when I was away my first year of college, no one was allowed to have any pets in their dorms. So this raised the question for me, since a lot of college campuses don't allow pets in their dorms, I think my study idea could potentially prove that this mandate is hurting students' mental health. And this study could also combine different aspects of other studies to further extend previous research. So the first reference I used was this one. Oops. Sorry about that. So this first study focused solely on subgroups on college campuses. So these subgroups included first-year students, transfer students, international students, Chinese students, and student athletes. And they looked at these different subgroups because each one of these subgroups suffers from different stress triggers. So they wanted to see if these stress triggers were different among these groups and whether these groups differed in levels of anxiety, stress, and depression. So a survey was administered to different college students among these subgroups, and there was a demographic questionnaire, and also they evaluated anxiety levels, stress levels, and depression levels using 3 different questionnaires. So when anxiety levels were high in all groups that were tested, all 3 of the groups showed different levels of anxiety, stress, and depression. There was a positive correlation between depression and workload. So when workload was high, depression levels were high. There was also a positive correlation between age, depression, and anxiety. And there was also a negative correlation between GPA and workload. So when there was a lot of work, there was low GPA levels. My second reference was this one, and this article focused on the support of owning pets and whether it provides social support and different attachment styles. So individual pet owners had trouble establishing relationships, and some people who own pets avoid social interactions because they feel that their pets replace the social interactions with humans. And the presence of a pet also had positive benefits on cardiovascular health. So my third reference was done by having a control group and experimental group. So this study focused primarily on the pet effect, which is actually petting your pet. So the control group was actually, they were put in a room with a stuffed animal, and they were asked to pet the animal. And the experimental group was actually given a live pet and was instructed to pet the actual animal. So the live animal at the end of the study actually showed to have decreased levels of anxiety among the participants who were in this study. So I think this raised a question for me. So I know that I'm administering my study over SONA, but should I ask whether the animal or pet that the student is referring to as a pet owner is present in their life while they are assessing their stress levels? The fourth reference I used was actually pretty interesting. It focused on college students, but used an intervention that was web-based. So one of the biggest problems among college students is they know that they suffer from mental health, but they aren't willing to get the help that they need because of the stigmas around mental health and whether they should seek counseling or not. So this intervention was actually done on the college student's computer. No one had to know about it, none of their friends. So there was no judgment. So this stress management intervention was administered through the student's email, and they would give a baseline. They were assessed with a baseline stress level, and then they were administered the intervention. And then they took the same assessment at the end, and the results showed that there was a decrease in stress scores between the baseline and the post scores. And my last reference that I used had to do with belongingness and social support and the effects of it on emotional intelligence and mental illness in college students. So there were 3 questionnaires administered to the college students, assessing each of these variables. And the results showed that as emotional intelligence increased, there was also an increase in belongingness, but a decrease in mental illness. So this gave me the question that do animals provide the sense of belongingness and social support that college students need in order to feel like they are intact with their emotions? And does this decrease their chance of developing anxiety or stress? So my research questions were, do commuter students who own pets have the lowest stress levels among the college student population? And do college students who are pet owners have lower stress levels compared to those students who do not have pets? My discussion questions for you guys are there any variables you think that would be beneficial that I should include in my study? So do you think that I should focus on different subgroups on college campuses? So whether the students belong to Greek life, whether they're commuters, whether they are student athletes, stuff like that. And my other discussion question for you guys was, should I focus solely on cats and dogs, and what pets do you think would be beneficial to include in my study? So I know that a lot of college students will keep goldfish in their dorms, even though they're not allowed. But after doing my research, I personally thought that I should only focus on cats and dogs because of the research findings that the presence of the animal is most important and the contact. So I was just wondering if you guys thought that that was beneficial, or what animals you think I should include.